Okay, well, this is a Fox 25 Boston Herald debate. Mr. Richard Weir.
Thank you. One Fox viewer asks if the fight against crime is really working when incidents of crime continue to persist in all neighborhoods, even on posh Newbury Street. As mayor, what would you do to combat teen violence and lower the crime rate in the city? Mr. Flaherty, could you answer
Sure.
this?
Thank you. Crime and violence is obviously a very important issue, and youth violent crime in particular, because the victims and the perpetrators continue to get younger and younger. I'm the only one in this race that has experience as a prosecutor here in Suffolk County, but also someone that knows that we're not going to be able to arrest our way out of the problem. This is about job creation, not just throwing summer jobs at it for youth. This is about year-round employment opportunities, meaningful, sustainable jobs for folks to earn a good wage so that they stay out of gangs, stay off of drugs, and get away from guns. I intend to, as mayor of the city of Boston, to bring forth e-policing so that residents of the city be able to get a text message or an email the moment a crime happens in their neighborhood. Not to scare them off, but to help them be a partner. This is about putting community back in community policing.
You agree with that, Mr. Yoon?
I do. Community policing is the key, but actually getting it done is more complex. And I do credit the mayor for bringing on a police commissioner who has talked about community policing, since he's gotten here. But to get it done, we're going to have the courage to look at the old ways that we've been doing policing in our city. In fact, what I would do as mayor is do a top-to-bottom review of the police department, which we haven't done for 30 years. And to re-examine all of our policies and programs. And I would bring a civilian review board to the city. To the Boston Police Department, because essential to community policing is trust. Trust between the community and the police department, and a civilian review board would achieve that. I'd also, in order to get a Boston Police Department that looks like the city of Boston in terms of its diversity at its leadership levels as well as the patrol level, we're going to have to look at the way that officers and detectives get promoted and advanced through the ranks. There's a whole set of issues that actually have to be dealt with. But again, it's going to take the courage to actually look at the way we've been doing things and say it's got to change.
You agree with these?
Progress.
You agree with these gentlemen, Mr. McCray?
Well, I agree that crime is a jobs and education issue. As I said earlier, we need to enforce the Boston jobs policy. There was a report that came out today about how under the mayor we've hired fewer and fewer Boston residents to do our jobs. If that is the case, no one needs to wonder why, if people in the inner city can't get jobs, that they turn to a life of crime. We need to enforce that policy. At least 50% of our residents need to be hired on these jobs, at least 25% minorities. I've done that in my construction company. We've exceeded those limits. We have to have a good education system. And I'd like to speak briefly about the police. They don't want to be out there doing details. They want to be paid a good wage so that they are fresh and they can fight crime in the 8 hours that they're on the job every day. We need to use that good bond rating that we have to use things like giving them low-interest loans so they can afford to live in our city. Those types of proposals are going to be, I'll pass it on to our prosecutorial person.
Well, you worked on it, Kev. You worked on it.
You're next, Mayor. You're next after Mr. Flaherty.
Say, Maria, obviously to expand a little bit on Kevin was talking about, which is the Boston residency job policy. It is about job creation, and also to add and to expand on Sam's point is that in order to prevent crime, in order to solve crime, in order to build trust in the community, the upper echelon of the police department has to start to look like the face of the city. Our mayor has had 16 years to diversify the upper echelon. Commissioners, department chief, superintendent, deputy superintendent, captain, lieutenant, sergeant, and he's failed.
Do you think you failed?
I haven't failed. When you think of crime, crime's lowest rate in 40 years in the city of Boston. We have a VIP program in certain neighborhoods of our city where the crime is the highest. We went out there and knocked on doors in those neighborhoods, talking to families, and crime has been reduced there also. We have safe street teams in 16 of those also in our neighborhoods, like Sergeant Lisa Holmes, who does Grove Hall. She knows the people in that neighborhood. I also been working with street safe teams with the Boston Foundation. We work in concert with them. We have 59 street workers out there today out in our streets. We're doing all those things. But also, like I said earlier, also text to crime. We're the first city in the country where neighbor can go on and text right to the police department on a crime, and we've solved a lot of crime issues out in our neighborhoods. We're working on those issues by working with the neighborhood. 680 crime community working with the community
Quickly, Mr.
Yeah,
Farr.
Maria, crime stats don't tell the whole story. My kitchen conversation stories have. Meeting with people like Shondell Davis, whose son was gunned down. That's what's happening in our city. People's homes are getting broken into. People are being assaulted. There are some folks in some of the neighborhoods of our city that do not feel safe in their own neighborhood. That's problematic. That will change when I'm mayor of Boston.